Mm.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh,
Yeah, I
that's
can.
great. Wow, that was the first that I'm in, and you guys can hear me. Okay, so let's pick up for today. Um, uh, there's no bad news but good news, or better still, maybe a little bit of bad news and then all good news. The good news is that today is the last class. And the bad news is that I will not have to see you every week. I wish I could continue seeing you every week. Can we devise something that will make us see ourselves every week?
What classes are you teaching next semester?
Oh, that is true. That will be another way for us to see, right? I guess we'll have to work on that and see where I can come in for next semester, and then hopefully again we get to see. So today is going to be the last session, and then from what I was informed, there's going to be a certificate of participation that will be sent to all of you that participated in the course and the likes. That was what I was told. I suppose the coordinator is supposed to probably be with us today, if not, but I know that will be sorted. So today we'll just discuss the last topic and then we'll talk around it, and then um, I suppose you guys will give some feedback today on how the class has been for you guys. So today I will not take no comments. So probably you start thinking on what you are going to say at the end of the session, relating to how the class was for you. What were the difficulties you faced, and what were the things that you possibly picked from the course? Maybe one or two things that's probably you enjoyed in the course of the session. So we'll talk about it at the end of the class. The class is not supposed to be as usual. It's not going to be a very long class. Today, practically, we are discussing the second aspect of human security from where we picked it last week. And today we'll be discussing solely on human security, and we'll be discussing pandemics. I suppose when we talk about pandemics now, all of us are familiar with what pandemics the pandemics is, right? So we'll just move on. And before we continue, first and foremost is to ask ourselves, uh, what is a pandemic? I suppose you've heard that a lot this recent time. What is a
Yeah, of
pandemic?
course.
Okay,
Mm,
let's play around it. What is your own what has been your own notion when they say pandemic? What comes to mind?
mm. A crisis caused from a virus, for example.
Okay, crisis caused from the virus. Okay. Any other person?
No, I would agree with what Masa said.
Okay. Yes, crisis caused from. Okay. That's a good point to start. That's a good way to start. But in most cases, when we want to talk about pandemics, we'll possibly want to start from epidemic, right? We'll start from epidemic, or better still, we'll start from outbreak, go to epidemic, then we'll go to pandemic. Pandemic is the highest stage of the crisis. But before we get to the highest stage of the crisis, first we need to understand what it implies, right? So let me open up the slides and then start from this. So when we talk about um, pandemic, we first ask ourselves, what is an epidemic, right? So we said an epidemic is a widespread occurrence of an infectious disease in a community within a particular time. These are just plenty English, they are jargons, right? In simple terms, what we mean is that when there is an occurrence of a particular disease, right? It may be virus, it may be bacteria, it may be fungi, whatever disease, a widespread occurrence of that disease in a particular community at a particular time is referred to as an epidemic, right? So if you have a particular, let's say for instance, flu, right? If it's occurring in a particular place, let's say in an area, and a whole lot of people tend to contract that particular disease at a very fast pace within a particular community, an area, then we say that is what? An epidemic. Are we together? So we say it's a rapid spread of disease to a large number of people within a given society at a short period of time. So let's assume that we are familiar with the fact that people get sick of different diseases, right? So if you pick a particular disease, and like we said, flu, for instance, if the rates of infection of flu becomes bigger than normal, right? Then we say it is an epidemic, right? If a whole lot of people contract it at a short time frame and a wide number of people, then we say it's an epidemic. So you notice in epidemic, it is in a particular area. Are we together? It is in a particular area, a particular society. So it may happen in this society and it's not spreading to another place. It's just within the confines of a particular territory, right? We say it is what? An epidemic. For instance, maybe it happens maybe in Eastern Germany, right? And it doesn't have anything to do with the central or southern or northern Germany. Then we said that is an epidemic happening within a particular area, but it does not extend beyond the territory of that space. So it's an epidemic. Then it becomes a pandemic. An epidemic graduates. We can use the word graduation, right? An epidemic graduates or develop into a pandemic. It becomes a pandemic when it becomes worldwide, when it crosses national boundary. Are you together? When it crosses international boundary and it becomes worldwide, then it's referred to as what? As a pandemic. So it is an epidemic when it's still within the confines of a particular territory. It becomes a pandemic when it moves beyond the confines of a particular territory, when it becomes international, when it becomes interstate, when it moves from Germany to France, to Sweden, to Denmark, to the United Kingdom, to Asia, right? To Africa, to Europe, to North America, to South America, to Australia, on and on. When it moves at that pace, it becomes a pandemic. But please take note of this. It is still the same formula as epidemic, happening within a short time frame and affecting a large number of people. Are you getting that? So you see, first and foremost, when we talk about this disease happening within this space, becoming a pandemic, we start from an outbreak. An outbreak is just a sudden rise in the cases of a particular disease. Altogether, an outbreak is the sudden rise in the cases of a particular disease. Using flu for as an example, if the typical number of people that are supposed to contract flu, maybe there are supposed to be 10 people in a year, right? And then if it moves beyond 10 people in a year, and in the space of 1 week, we now have 20 people contracting flu, right? Especially in a place whereby there was no flu before, right? We said it is what? It is an outbreak, right? You must have had outbreak of a particular disease, outbreak of cholera, outbreak of flu, and the likes. So outbreak of Ebola, right? So you see, at that space, it is referred to as an outbreak because it is not regular. It's not something that is normal within that particular area. They are not used to that kind of disease. Or maybe other disease affects them in that area, but they are not used to that particular disease being affecting them. So when it happens, it says it is what? It is an outbreak. But when that continues, right, and more people are being affected, still within that particular confines of that area, it becomes what? An epidemic. But when it's now spread to a larger territory, to the nation, to international territories, then it becomes what? A pandemic. Are we together with the flow?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So basically, that's the idea. When we talk about pandemics, right? In recent times now, we're all familiar with the coronavirus, COVID-19 pandemic, right? And in most cases, when we talk about it, what is or better still, I should put it to the house. Do you think that this is the greatest issue that's affected man in the history of man? Do you think coronavirus is a serious matter?
Not in the history of man, but in recent times for sure.
Recent times, yes, but most
You
definitely
mean,
not in the history of man. Vincent,
in view of diseases,
you said?
or every world event, like only for diseases? I think then yes, because it's globally spread.
Okay,
You
so
just
we have
asked if it's the what did you say?
I said, do you think the COVID-19 pandemic is most probably the greatest pandemic that has affected man?
Yeah, I think so. Apart from like the medieval age.
Okay. Any other position?
Well, we still had Spanish flu, which was a little bit more deadly than right now the COVID-19.
That's nice.
It just seems like it because it spread so fast.
Because of the pace of the distribution. Okay, yeah, that's cool. I like the submission you are giving. Now look at this. When we talk about the history of pandemic, first and foremost, I appreciate what Ivan just said now. We talked about the Spanish flu, right? The COVID-19 is not the first pandemic that has hit mankind in the history of pandemics in the world. We've had pandemics in the world and we are still having pandemics in the world. COVID-19 is just the most recent pandemic in the world. And I love what Raja just said now, and I will pick up from what she said to say that COVID-19, the pace of the degree at which it's the degree of spread all right? The pace at which it is spreading is high. Why do you think it's so? Why do you think that COVID-19, the rate of spread is high, the prevalence rate is high? Why do you think so?
Globalization, and because people denied it was a thing and didn't take precautions.
Yeah, and the lack of like preparation, but
Lack
that
of
goes hand
preparation.
in hand with the like ignorance.
Ignorance. Yeah, these are very cogent, these are very important points you are raising. Ignorance, lack of preparedness, and people yes, lack of preparedness, ignorance. People do not see it as denial tactics. People do not see it as an issue. And then the most important reason why the spread is high is globalization. Globalization is the reason why it became a pandemic at a very fast pace, right? The increase in globalization, you know, like we said in our previous classes, with globalization comes the pace in technology and the fact that the world itself is becoming smaller and smaller and connection is becoming high. So basically that's what we have. Now, what I have here is the progression in pandemics in the world, the history of pandemics in the world. So we're going to pick it one after the other, and then you understand how it has flowed in the history of the world over time. You could see this. I'm going to be sending the slide so you can play around this and see the timeline. What I just did here now, what we did here is just to show the timeline of the flow from the first plague that was recorded in 165 and 1 to 180 BC. The first plague was the Antonine plague, right? It was recorded, and then the number of deaths, the deaths over time, and the lives, the number of the people that possibly the virus or the pandemic has affected in the history of man. So this is what you look at. Now, what you see here is the slide I just tabularized here now, just to give us a perspective to it. This is a picture, this is a pictorial view of the pandemics as you could see it in the history of man, right? Now, looking at it here, right? First, we have the Antonine plague, which was believed to be either smallpox or measles. And we have about 5 million people that died as a result of that plague in 165 to 180 BC. And then we have the Japanese smallpox epidemic that also happened in 735 to 737. And we have about recorded death of about 1 million, right? We have the plague of Justinian that's had about 30 to 50 million people. We have the Black Death that's killed about 200 million people. And then on, you have these plagues, right? You notice the plague as it continues, the Italian plague, the cholera pandemic, right? You have the third plague, you have the yellow fever in the late 1800s, you have the Russian flu, you have the Spanish flu that Ivan talked about in 1918 to 1919, and that killed about 40 to 50 million. That's the estimated deaths that went for that. You have the Asian flu, the Hong Kong flu. We still have HIV as a pandemic, HIV and AIDS since 1980s, till present, and recorded 25 to 35 million deaths. You have the swine flu, you have the SARS. In recent times, we have the SARS, we have the Ebola, we have the MERS, and now we have COVID-19. As of June 2020, COVID-19 have just killed 502,000 people. But presently, as we speak, we are talking about millions. The deaths are presently in millions. I think the last I checked, I think we have about 70 million infection and about 2 million deaths, right? About 2 million deaths in the last time I checked. right? About 2.2 million deaths presently now, right? According to okay, are you still seeing my slide?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am not seeing my slide again. Okay, are you still seeing my slide?
I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm updating this data, right? It's about 2 million view now. Did I say 200? 2 million, 2 million as at today, 02, 02, 2021, we have 2 million deaths as at this time. In fact, we have 2.2 million deaths as at this time, right? As of today, we have about 2 million deaths to COVID-19. So you see that, like we said, we've asked the question already. COVID-19 is taking this amount of people as we speak. And then the next thing to look at is the death toll from the highest to the lowest. Like we said, COVID-19 is not the most dead, it's not the deadliest. It's not the deadliest of pandemics in the world as we speak now. In the history of mankind, we still have the Black Death that's had about 200 million people that died as a pandemic. COVID-19 just have about how many million presently as we speak? 2 million. Black Death had 200 million people that died. And then after the Black Death, the next deadliest of the pandemics in the history of mankind is the smallpox. The smallpox pandemics in 1520 had 56 million deaths. And then after that, we have the Spanish flu that had between 40 to 50 million deaths. And then from that, we have the plague of Justinian that had 30 to 50 million deaths. And then we have HIV that had 25 to 35 million estimated deaths. You see, on and on and on. But you notice, right? Presently, as of June last year, COVID was far away. But now COVID is now within the space of the 17th century Great Plague and the Asian flu. Asian flu had 1.1 million. You see, COVID-19 has overtaken the Asian flu when it comes to casualty. Now we're having 2 million deaths, and it's still counting. The death toll is still counting. We are still moving within the space of this death toll. So that's the scary part when it comes to COVID-19. The fact that we are still moving. We are still moving as a result of the pandemic is still growing. It's still a growing pandemic. So when it comes to death toll. So basically that's the argument when we look at pandemics in the world, right? The history of pandemics in the world. But what we are concerned with when we discuss this in geopolitics is to ask ourselves, how does this relate to us? How can we relate to it? Not just looking at the pandemic the way it is. What is the realist view on pandemics? And what is the liberalist view on pandemic? Remember, we said the realist and the liberalist are the foundational theories on which all other theories sit on, right? So when it comes to the realist view, remember we said the realists argued that humans are evil. We are intrinsically evil, and the state behave like humans, right? And we said that the realists argue that nation states are by and large the biggest actors in international politics, international relations, and states are concerned about their own security, right? In the pursuit of their national interests, and that's what they are concerned about. And again, we said that on the realists believe the doctrine of self-preservation. So within the international system, everybody is concerned about the preservation of self. And then we said that under the realist view, competition, which will often lead to conflict, is the order of the day. And power is the currency of the international system. I'm just reminding you what the realist view is. Now, in relation to pandemics, the realists believe that pandemics are caused by humans, and it is caused by it is a plan by states, different states, to manipulate the international system to suit itself. So I suppose you must have had a whole lot of conspiracy theories as it is to say that this pandemic, like for instance, COVID-19, was caused by people to manipulate the countries of the world. Some people will tell you that China actually came up with devised COVID-19 in order to control, to have world power. Some people will tell you that COVID-19 was created in order to destroy China or destroy other countries of the world or to increase power, right? If you look at it from an economic point of view, we may say that COVID-19 was created so that companies that will produce the vaccine will have markets for their vaccine, right? You get the idea? So you see, you can come up with a whole lot of arguments. You see, most conspiracy theorists come from these arguments of the realists. And when you look at it from the premises of the conspiracy theory, from the realist theory too, we also say that solutions to this pandemic, for instance, if you pick COVID-19, the solution to COVID-19 is going to be states trying to protect their own interests. So no state will come up with policies that will be against it. So everybody is trying to protect its interests within the international system. And that is what will continue, right? Within the international system. So that's the argument of the realists. And that's why you see that United States is trying to come up with a vaccine. Russia is trying to come up with a vaccine. Europe is also working on vaccine. France is working on vaccine. The UK is working on vaccine. China is working on its own vaccine, all in a bid to ensure that they maintain power, right? Everybody is protecting his interest. Nobody is coming together. You know what, guys, let us work together and come up with something that will help all of us as together. No, they are concerned about their own interests as individual states. So that's the argument of the realists, right? Now, the liberalists argue that humans may be evil, but they can cooperate, right? Cooperation is possible. So for them, they argue that a global pandemic, for us to fight against this pandemic, we must work together. And they believe that we can actually work together. Unity is key in working on pandemics in the world. And they believe that both state and non-state actors are important. For us to come up with a solution for pandemics, both state as well as non-state actors are important. So you see, the realists believe that only state actors are important. They are the only ones that can come up with solutions for the pandemics. While the realists believe that no, people, both states as well as individuals, needs to work together in order for us to come up with what solution for the pandemic. Are you about saying something?
No.
Okay, so basically this is the argument of the realists, right? They believe that cooperation is possible, and until we cooperate together, we cannot curtail the pandemics as they happen in the world. So basically this is the argument. So the question I want to throw out to the house, I want us to consider now, and I want your view on that. What will you advise your government, which part will you advise your governments to follow as the COVID-19 case continuously increases? What part will you advise the government to follow? Should they follow the realist part, or should they follow the liberalist part? And why do you think that will be the solution for to curtail the issue of the COVID-19? Can I hear your views?
Well, in an ideal scenario, I think the liberalist view should be pursued. But I don't think it's possible because states like Russia, China, and USA, I would say, won't like accept the liberalist view, or will go their own way. And it sounds a bit stupid because to go the liberalist way, someone has to start. And if you say, well, no one will join me in this way, it's not worth trying. That's a bad take on it, but I don't think it's possible.
Yes. Any more contribution on that?
Yeah, I think Vincent has a point there. Everybody tries to act in a liberalism view on the outside, but no, we have all a realism view in reality.
So what would you advise your government to go by? Huh? Okay, from what Vincent just raised now, I just felt that it would be nice that you guys try and read up on this, right? In relation to both the realist view and are you guys familiar with the game theory?
No, no.
Okay, I'm just going to discuss that. It's not part of what we need to discuss, but it's interesting, and within the space of international politics and even within our own individual daily lives, we live by what we refer to as the game theory, right? And within the international system also, the game theory comes to play. And by the time you want to answer this question that we just raised now, what path should your government follow? There's no way that you will not, the game theory will not come to play with the international system, and that is what it's all about. The premise of the game theory is just the way a game is. The argument is that in each scenario, we operate, actors within a particular scenario operate within the premises of the principle of a game. When you play a game, right, what are the outcomes, possible outcomes?
Win or lose.
Win or lose, right? Okay. Win or lose, let's start with that, right? The possible outcome in a game is a win or lose. What else? What else? What are the,
Like,
what another? Huh?
Play to improve. So you learn from your mistakes this time.
And what? Yeah, you play to improve. No, that is going to be maybe your own goal. But what is if you play a game, either you are improving or not improving, what are the possible outcomes that you are likely to get?
Yeah, other than that, win or lose.
Win or lose. There's one more outcome that you're not talking about.
A draw.
A draw. Huh? These are the possible outcome, right? Win, lose, or draw. Right? Are we together?
Yes.
So in a game, right? In a game, the three possible outcome is either you win, you lose, or you draw, right? So these are the possible outcomes. So the argument of the game theory is to say that in every situation we find ourselves, right? First and foremost, the game theory argues both from a liberal and a realist point of view, right? And the argument here is to say that in every situation we find ourselves, everything we do is like a game. Everywhere, everything you do, as long as there are people involved, right? Politics is like a game. Remember how we define politics as what? authoritative allocation of values, right? Remember, politics is the authoritative allocation of values, right? So we say in every situation we find ourselves, these are the possible outcomes. Either you win, you lose, or you draw, right? So the game theorists argue that in this situation now, it is possible for us to have a win-win situation, right? When we have a win-win situation, that is when two parties are involved and they have a win-win situation. When you have a win-win situation, what does that imply? It implies you did what? It implies a draw. Are we together? A win-win situation it implies a draw. It implies that you have, let's say, if we are playing a game of football, for instance, right? You are playing a game of football. A draw will be what? Maybe you play 1-1, right? Are we together? Are you guys following me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So now a win-win situation will be that you draw. So we'll play a 1-1. So if I'm in a game with you and we draw, we'll play a 1-1. A win-lose situation. A win-lose situation will be what? That we play what? 1-0. Are you getting it? 1-0, right? That is a win-lose situation. Now, a win-lose situation is what we refer to as in game theory as a zero-sum game. It's a zero-sum, right? The argument is that if you are winning, one person needs to be what? If I win, what happens to the other part? The other party to the game?
Has to lose.
They lose.
Lose, right? So the argument here is that these two is the argument within a game theory, right? The argument is this, that it is either you are winning, right? The possible outcome is a win, a lose, or a draw. So one partner will either win and the other partner will lose, right? Or both partners win. And when both partner wins, you have a 1-1 situation, right? And it's also possible that in your draw, sorry, I missed this now, both of you lose. Lose-lose is going to be what? So let's start like this, right? So in a situation whereby both of you lost out, right? What do you mean by that? Let's put a scenario. Let's put a scenario for us to understand this now. If, okay, I'm holding my this is my Wi-Fi, my internet connection, right? Let's say we are fighting over this internet connection. Let's say myself and Vincent. We are fighting over this internet connection now, right? A lose-lose situation will be that both of us will not have this. We can destroy it together, right? Are you getting me?
Yeah.
So if we both destroy this and none of us have it, it is what? A 0-0. So that's the lose-lose situation, right? It's a draw, right? So in our draw situation, we may have a 0-0 or a 1-1. So draw situation will be that both of us will not have this, right? A win-win situation will be that both of us have access to this, right? And then a win-loss situation will be that one of us have it. Vincent have it and I don't have it, right? So that's the argument in game theory. So it's either you have a loss-loss situation, a win-win situation, or a win-loss situation, right? Now, the argument here in game theory is to say that the international system, and in every situation in which we find ourselves in politics, this is what happens, right? This happens in politics. That's one aspect of the argument under the game theory. So everything happens within this space. It's either we are winning together or we are losing together, or one of us is winning. So the realists argue that, under the realists, they argue that the only scenario that is possible within the international system is a win-loss situation, a zero-sum game. Are you getting the idea? Right? So the realist view, the realists argue that what? Or better start, just write it here. This is the realist view. So the realists believe that the international system is a win-loss situation. One person wins at the detriment of the other. Am I making sense here?
Yeah.
Okay. So the realists believe that one person will always win at the detriment of the other. That's the argument of the realists, right? Because we are selfish and we are competitive, our selfishness will always take over. We will always want to win at the detriment of the other. Now, the other view, these two now, right? The argument here is the liberalist view. The liberalist view comes to play here. The liberalist view comes to play here. The liberalists argue that it is possible for both of us to win, right? We can all win together. So your winning is not at the detriment of my winning. So both of us can win together. That's the argument of the realists, the liberalists, right? Now, the realists also believe that in a lose-lose situation, the realists believe that it is possible that in a bid for you to win, because if we continue to fight, right? Still on the liberalists, right? They believe that if we continue to fight, what is that I spelled there? Okay, so they argue that if we continue to fight, we will all lose. So in a bid for us not to lose, we rather both win. So for us to both win, what must happen? For us not to have a 0-0 situation, what must we do? What must we do for us not to have a 0-0 situation whereby we both lose?
Somebody has to win.
So that will become a realist view. That will become a realist view. If somebody has to win in a game, it becomes a realist, because the liberalists believe that somebody has to win at every game. But the liberalists say that we don't necessarily, one person don't necessarily need to win. Both of us can win. We can have a win-win situation. So for us to have a win-win situation, what do we need? What do you think we need for us, both of us, to win?
Make decisions together.
Make decisions together. If I'm making decisions together, what are we doing? What is that? One word. What will that be if I'm making decisions together?
We cooperate.
Cooperation. That is the word. We need to what? To cooperate, right? So for us to avoid a lose-lose situation, we must cooperate, right? So the realists believe that cooperation, right? Cooperation becomes necessary, right? Cooperation becomes necessary for us to have what? A win-win situation. Are you getting the idea?
Yeah.
Are we together? Why the realists believe that we don't need to cooperate. One person should win, and then that should be the end of the game. Now, this is where the game theory becomes interesting. There's what we refer to as what? The stag-hunt analysis. Stag-hunt analysis. Now, what it implies in the stag-hunt is that everybody is aware of the fact that if we cooperate, we win together. But if we don't cooperate, one person will win, one person will lose, right? Now, imagine a situation whereby we are also aware, right? First, we are aware that if we cooperate, we are going to win together. We're aware that if we don't cooperate, one person will win, another person will lose. We are also aware that everybody will want to pursue his own interests, right? All of us want to pursue our own interests. So in that situation, what do we do? Are you getting the idea? Are you getting my scenario? Right? Now, if we cooperate together, we are going to win together, right? But if we don't cooperate, if one of us decide not to cooperate with us, the rest of us will lose, and then one person will win. You get the idea? So the stag hunt is an analysis of 4 hunters, right? That are trying to kill the stag. Are you getting the idea? There are 4 hunters trying to kill the stag. If 4 of them cooperate, they will kill that stag. But if one of them decide not to cooperate with the other, they will lose out. You get the idea? So now there's a dilemma within that space on what to do. Should they cooperate or not to cooperate? Right? And the international system is also like that. In the ground that you know that if you cooperate, you are going to win together. But you are not certain that the other person will also cooperate. Because if they do not cooperate, you will lose. So what do you do in that situation? That is the situation in which we find ourselves within the international system. Are you getting the idea? Right?
Yes.
So first we have the zero-sum analysis. Right? This analysis is all within the space of the zero-sum. These 3 that I just did now, lose, win, and win-lose, is the zero-sum analysis. Then we have the stag hunt analysis, right? So here is the A, or better still, so first we have the zero-sum analysis. Then second, we have the stag hunt. And then the third analysis under game theory is the prisoner's dilemma. Have you heard the word prisoner's dilemma before?
Yeah.
You've heard the prisoner's dilemma.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you give us an idea? What is it that you knew about the prisoner's dilemma?
Yeah, it's a very complicated scenario to explain, but it deals with the stag hunt idea, where you can't trust the other person, or how the chances are. It's in English it's very difficult, but I know the thing.
Great.
Four prisoners are imprisoned, and you have 2 decisions: either to trust the other person or to backstab them. And if you yeah, it's very difficult to explain, sorry.
Yeah. It's as simple as, yes, Vicent, go ahead.
Isn't it that if they choose the same thing, they all get reduced sentence or no sentence at all? And if they choose differently, they get the full sentence?
Good. That is what it is, right? It's as easy as that. We can just say trust or backstab, right? If you both trust each other, both of you will go free, right? Both prisoners will go free if they trust each other and say the same thing, right? But if they backstab one, if A backstab B, right? A will get a reduced sentence, right? While B will get a greater sentence. You get that? So you see, there are three scenarios in prisoner's dilemma. Let's play around the three scenarios, right? So when we explain prisoner's dilemma, let me just open another slide, just for prisoner's dilemma, right? So for prisoner's dilemma, these are the possible outcomes. Both go free, right? So these are the possible outcomes under the prisoner's dilemma, right? These are the possible outcomes. It's either both of them will go free, or one will get a reduced sentence, while the other one will guess what? Get a full sentence, right? These are the possible outcomes. But you see, it is all about trust. The prisoner dilemma is all about what? It's all about trust. How well can you trust your partner, right? Not to backstab you, right? How well can you trust your partner not to backstab you? Because if your partner backstab you, he gets a reduced sentence. And then you get what? The full sentence. And if the partner did not backstab you, you get what? You both go free. You get the idea? Then going back to this, remember what we say under the realists. The realists say everybody is selfish, right? You know fully well that there is a likelihood that your partner will backstab you. Like, right? You have a likelihood of being backstabbed. So what do? Do you trust that your partner will stay true to himself, or will he backstab you? You don't know, right? So you do what? You go for the lesser one. You both backstab each other, right? And if by the time you backstab each other, you both stay in jail. But if you both decide to trust each other and you do not backstab each other, then both of you go free. You get the idea? So you see, under the international system, this also comes to play. How well can you trust the other person not to backstab you? You get the idea? The same thing goes for the stag-hunt analysis. How well do you trust the other person not to backstab you, right? In the company of everybody. And it plays also when we discuss what? The issues within the international system. How well do you trust that the decisions and actions of actors within the international system is for the interests of everybody and not for what? For their own individual interests. So that's the argument in which, these are the points in which we look at when we look at the international system. Should we trust to say that we are going to have a win-win situation whereby we will all cooperate? We cooperate to have a win-win situation, or do we backstab each other? When we backstab each other here, what do we have? So here we can have, we both go free. That's a 1-1. It's a win-win situation, right? Or we have what? A 1-0 situation. Or number 3, we have what? A 0-0 situation. Right? So these are the possible scenarios in which we have. If we decide not to backstab each other, we are going to have a win-win situation whereby both of us will go free. If one of us decides to backstab each other, the other, then we are going to have a situation whereby one is having a reduced sentence, the other one will have a full sentence. Or if we both backstab each other, we both lose. All of us have what? The full sentence. Right? So these are the possible scenarios which you have. And this happens within the international system. That's the argument we are making here. It happens with the international system that because of this, it becomes difficult for us within the international system to trust the actions and inactions of individuals. Remember when we talk about the issue of love, right? To say, even you telling me you love me is a selfish act. It's a selfish act. So how well do I trust that you are doing it out of an altruistic motive, out of the action you are carrying? How well can I trust the fact that that action is for my own benefit, right? That is the argument of the realist here. But the liberalists, we always say that let us trust each other and go on what? On the premises of what? Of a win-win situation. So it would be nice at the end of the class, please read up on the game theory and just play around the game theory and understand what the game theory is talking about, right? Just read up on it. And like I said, the three aspects of the game theory is the zero-sum analysis, the stag-hunt analysis, and the prisoner dilemma analysis, right? So read up on it and just enjoying it, and you can relate to this in your analysis around things that happen around your environment, as well as the things that happen within the international system. So I will end here and open the floor for question and contribution if there is any.
No questions so far.
Okay. So do I have contributions? If no question, do I have contributions? Okay.
Well, I want to thank you, and I think everyone wants to thank you for just giving us the opportunity to have a kind of semester abroad and a lesson. And for me, geopolitics was quite interesting and a little bit challenging because it's different than our usual studies, but interesting.
Yeah, I can only agree on that. It was definitely very interesting to think about the topics you talked about. Yeah.
Yes, any other feedback from anybody before we end the session?
No, I can only agree.
I should quickly say that the session has also been actually quite interesting for me too. I enjoyed the time we spent together. I actually look forward to every Tuesday when we have to have a conversation together. In as much as I'm taking the course, I'm also learning from the course too, right? But for me, every day is a learning situation. Nobody knows better than anybody, right? You come with your experience, I come with my own experience, and then we relate within this field, right? And I'm happy to have you guys, and I hope that we'll get to meet sometimes in the future, possibly maybe in another course as the year go by, right? So I want to thank you for your attendance, and I want to thank you for your contribution. You have been a lively class. I've had students whereby you ask question and anybody will just be looking at you. Nobody is answering or contributing to the class. But I'm happy that you guys contributed to each of the sessions in which we had together. So I'm happy, and I wish you the very best of luck in your future endeavors. And then, like I said, we are going to be sending you we'll be sending you certificates of participation also for the course. Any other discussion that we need to have, we'll be having it via email. I suppose you all have my contacts. If for any reason you want to contact me for anything, please feel free to reach out to me, and let's have a communication. Let's just keep in touch, right? Let's keep in touch. And if for any reason you come within my space, you are around anywhere around Africa, South Africa precisely, you can reach out. and we can get to meet. And if for any reason I come around your space, I suppose all of you are all in, it seems you're all in the same institution, right?
Yeah.
It seems you're in the same institution. Which side of Germany are you guys in the first place?
North.
Okay. If for any reason, maybe after COVID, and I come for a conference or two around here, maybe we will have a sit outs. I would love to meet you guys physically, apart from the virtual sessions we have been having. Possibly, maybe when we may have that sometimes in the future. So with that, I want to say thank you, and say that will be the end of the session. Thank you very much. I will still send this slide. I'll send the slide to you guys so that you can just play around it and pick whatever you may want to pick from it. So thank you very much. That will be the end of it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How do I say thank you in German?
Dankeschön.
Say that again.
Dankeschön. Oder einfach nur
Dankeschön.
danke.
Yes.
Only danke.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
Only the best for you. Bye.
Yeah, bye. Oh. So that is the end of it.